6 boys escaped school and got stranded on an island for 15 months. What happened to them? Imagine this. 6 boys sneak out of their strict boarding school one night and end up stranded on a remote island for 15 months. The craziest part? They were eventually found alive. But how they survived is something straight out of a movie. It all started one morning in Tonga, back in 1965, when staff at a boarding school realized that 6 teenage boys had mysteriously vanished overnight. At first, teachers thought they had just run away because of how strict the school was. Maybe they'd gone back to their families. But when they called the boys' homes, they got a chilling answer. None of the boys had come home. That's when the police were called. A full investigation began, but after months with no leads, it was called off. Everyone assumed the worst, that the boys were gone for good. But here's what really happened. Those 6 boys, Sione, Stephen, Kolo, David, Luke, and Mano, were completely fed up with boarding school life. Strict rules, early wake-ups, no freedom. They'd had enough. One evening, they were talking when Sione said, "Let's do something crazy. Let's get away from this place and go explore an island." The others were skeptical. "We don't even have permission to leave school. How would we get to an island?" Sione laid out the plan. Sneak out at night, find a boat, sail out to an island, have an adventure, and be back before anyone notices. Everyone was in. They decided to head for Fiji, not realizing it was over 500 miles, 800 kilometers away. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to start the most dangerous journey of their lives. Problem was, they had no boat and no money. But not far from their school, some local fishermen used to dock their boats. The boys came up with a risky plan: steal a boat late at night, explore the island, and return it before morning. So late that night, while the school slept, they snuck out, stole some food, grabbed a gas stove, and took one of the fishermen's boats. And they set sail, with no map, no compass, and no idea what they were doing. Out on the ocean, they started to get tired and one by one, fell asleep. Now here's the thing. The ocean at night isn't calm. It's wild. Massive waves crashed into the boat, waking all the boys up in a panic. They tried to steer, but they had no idea which way they were going. Eventually, the waves died down, and in the distance, they spotted a big island. They were relieved land, but their boat was damaged from the storm, and they had no control over it anymore. So what did? They used their hands like paddles, splashing and struggling to get the boat to shore. When they finally reached land, they hit another obstacle, steep cliffs. Exhausted and with no way to climb up, they found some small caves and rested there for the night. Later, they managed to climb over to the other side of the island, but they quickly realized this wasn't Fiji. They were on Ada Island, an uninhabited island about 490 miles, 789 kilometers, from their intended destination. Still, they thought, maybe a boat will pass by, and we'll get rescued. But that didn't happen. Days passed, then weeks, then months, and they were starving. Here's a fact. Humans can survive a few days without food, but only 3 days without water. And there was no clean drinking water on the island. The boys were desperate. That's when one of them spotted a bird's nest. He broke an egg and drank it. It helped. So they started drinking raw bird eggs to survive. Food was a problem too, with nothing else to eat. They began catching birds and eating them raw. Their gas stove had floated away in the storm, so raw meat was all they had. Some of the boys got sick, but they had no choice. It was eat or die. As time passed, they adapted. They survived off birds and eggs. They built shelters out of leaves and sticks. They figured out how to catch rainwater. Eventually, they even found chickens and some old knives. They were basically creating a new life on the island. But then disaster struck again. One day, Stephen and Luke were out hunting birds. Luke caught 2, but Stephen hadn't had any luck. Then Stephen spotted a big bird and went after it, and accidentally fell off a cliff. His leg broke badly. The boys helped him up the cliff, but they had no medical supplies. Stephen lay in pain, screaming for days. Finally, one of the boys used his brain. He made a splint out of sticks and leaves, and over time, Stephen's leg healed. And then something incredible happened. The boys learned to make fire. That changed everything. For the first time in months, they could cook their food. And with smoke rising from the island, they finally had a way to signal passing ships. But still, 15 months went by. Not a single ship passed close enough. Until one day, Stephen saw something far off in the distance, a boat. He started waving his arms and shaking leaves to get attention. On that boat was Captain Peter Warner, who had noticed smoke in the sky. When he looked through his binoculars, he saw Stephen waving. At first, Peter thought he was seeing a native islander. The boys, after all this time, looked completely wild. But as he got closer, he realized the truth. He brought them on board and was shocked by their story. Peter told the media, and the story exploded. These boys became international news. Everyone wanted to know, how did 6 teenage boys survive 15 months on a deserted island? Their story was so amazing, it was even turned into a movie. Captain Peter was given credit for discovering them, and later shared in the success of the film. So now I've got a question for you. If you were one of those boys, stuck on an island for 15 months, how would you survive? Would you make it? Would you give up? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing true stories.